On the phone, always a pleasure to welcome to this program, Chris Hayes, the host of Up with Chris on MSNBC and a contributing writer to The Nation magazine. Chris, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be back, Sam.
Now, let's get right down to it. What do you think about this storm, dude?
Let's get right down to it. Let's not waste any time. I am now looking at staying at a Midtown hotel so that I could not miss my show tomorrow morning. I was going to go back home to Park Slope, but now that there's going to be a foot of snow, I don't really want to risk it.
Yeah, they may shut down the subways.
Yeah, exactly. So I think prudence dictates that I should do it, although I'm sort of loath to miss a bedtime with my daughter.
I understand. At that age, too. Your daughter's what now, like only...
She's 14 months now.
This is when they really start to grow.
She's super into being read books, and definitely a highlight of the day is sitting there with her on my lap, going through some books. Don't let the pigeon drive the bus, etc.
Been
Shout
there.
out to all the parents of young kids out there who know that reference. So yeah, I'm sort of loath to miss that, but yeah, we got to make sure that we can get the show up and running tomorrow morning.
Well, I think you tweeted something about the post office. They may not be coming on Saturdays.
They may have suspended Saturday service, but we have not.
Actually, I want to touch on that, but before we do, let's talk about what I perceive to be sort of the big news this week is was the Brennan hearings and the sort of the release of. Well, at first, I guess NBC got hold of a white paper which purported to summarize at least one Office of Legal Counsel memo, which outlined the legal justification for the targeted killing program. I think one of the things that we learned, at least by reading between the lines during the hearings yesterday, was that there were more memos and.
Yep.
Senator Ron Wyden is at least implying that he may stop this nomination if they don't get those memos. Give me your sense first of the hearings.
I thought the hearings were they weren't the kind of total embarrassing debacle that the Chuck Hagel hearings were. So I suppose grading on a curve, they weren't terrible. I thought they were sort of surprisingly substanceless in some ways. There was, Saxy Chambliss trying to score some partisan points by referring to some 1998 decision Brennan had made in the CIA where he had vetoed a strike at bin Laden because he didn't think their intelligence was sufficient, as if that were some, massively, and Brennan stuck by his guns. So there was that kind of point scoring. There was a fair amount of institutional jockeying, which is healthy, but also, I'm not quite sure how much it's grandstanding and how much of it's real. What I mean by institutional jockeying is, the House Intelligence Oversight Committee sort of asserting their oversight priority and prerogative and asking John Brennan to be forthcoming and transparent. Right. And the whole thing seems a little theatrical to say, if you're confirmed, will you be transparent and honest with us? And he says, of course I'll be transparent and honest with you. And then they turn around and complain about the CIA is never transparent and honest with us, right? So I found that whole thing like it all seemed a little like everyone's going through the motions. What we have not seen, outside of a few select people, and Ron Wyden, I would say, would be absolutely the point person on this. Mm-hmm. Outside of Ron Wyden, there really has not been a serious effort on the part of Congress to reassert its authority, its oversight authority and control in this kind of prolonged war on terror era. There have been specific instances in which it has done it, but it has undertaken nothing comprehensive on the order of, say, the 1970s Church Committee, which was really the last time that Congress kind of asserted and reasserted its authority and oversight role. And so I didn't see much, aside from Ron Wyden, change yesterday. And the thing I think to remember is that, even if there are different centers of gravity and there's some resistance to being cut out of the loop on the part of members of the Senate, they are basically on the same page as to the policy. I mean, there's tremendous policy consensus around targeted killing as an instrument of American foreign policy and, counterterrorism. And so you didn't see a lot of debate over that.
Which is sort of stunning when you consider the fact that they had only really gotten the first first-hand peek at what the justification for this policy is. I mean, in terms of law, the night before, right, and presumably didn't really have time to really go through this. And, one of the things that concerns me about this nomination, because it would appear, short of Ron Wyden saying, leveraging this nomination to get more of those documents, that this is going to be the way that Congress implicitly, if not explicitly, says, okay, we're fine with this program.
Right.
I mean, once they confirm the architect, and to the extent that I've had conversations on this program about the memo or the shadow of the memo, I guess, because we don't see the OLC memo. The idea here is that, I mean, not only is this sort of them implicitly buying into this, but to the extent that we know what's in there, it appears that this was written to justify the actions that were already taken. In other words, this was written in retrospect. It was reverse engineered, the policy, to fit around this. And from what we know from what was released by this leak earlier in the week, we don't even know what. We just know that this case of, let's say, targeting American citizens is sufficient to cross the threshold. We don't even know what the threshold, just how low that threshold is for it to be legal.
Right. I mean, the document that we got our hands on is not the document. I mean, you basically said this, but just people should be clear. It is not the official opinion from the Office of Legal Counsel, right? The Office of Legal Counsel, which is a relatively heretofore obscure, well, prior to the Bush years, I would say, an obscure office in the Department of Justice, which essentially kind of acts like the executive branch's Supreme Court internally, right? When the executive branch wants to know, is something legal? Can we do this? The OLC essentially issues the final opinion on that. And we got to know the OLC during the Bush years because of the infamous Bybee memo, which was authored by John Yoo, which had which was subsequently revoked because it said that torture was allowable and legal, and even created a threshold for torture that basically anything up to something that would cause the amount of pain associated with organ failure. Right? So now, OLC, there are OLC memos, we think there's about 7 of them, that are different iterations of the constitutional reasoning and legal reasoning as to why the government can engage in the kind of targeted killing it's doing broadly, and then targeted killing specifically with American citizens at stake. This was a memo written based on some of the legal reasoning that appears in those actual official decisions memos that are classified and have now been released, or some of which have now been released, one of which at least has been released to the Senate Intelligence Committee. So the reasoning there is sort of ex post. Presumably, one would hope that before they actually killed al-Awlaki, they, even in the targeting phase, and there was a question about whether they could even target him, that prior to adding him to the list, they went through OLC and got their blessing. We don't know that for sure. It would be fairly scandalous if they ex post went to OLC to have them reverse engineer a justification for it.
I mean, I had a conversation with Scott Horton from Harper's, who his sense was that this was reverse engineered. That this is a now, of course, we don't know. We don't know what the dates are.
Wait, you're talking about the document we've seen?
I'm talking about the OLC memos that this is based on.
Memo.
I mean, and that the program was set up. And then at one point it was like, okay, now how do we justify this?
Right.
which is very problematic. That's also what we know of the Bybee memos too, is that these were much of the legal reasoning was constructed after the fact to essentially justify a program that had already taken place or had already been initiated anyways. And the thing that's problematic with this is that, now we don't know what's in those other 6, 7, 8 OLC memos as to whether or not they address such questions as, hey, can you kill an American citizen on American soil? There's so much. And again, this is hard because all we saw was essentially a shadow of what the OLC memos purport to say. But there's such looseness, when things like imminent threat is determined less by an actual threat, but more personified in someone who could be problematic in the future. When things like the ability to capture that subject of a targeted assassination is deemed impossible, but also includes the potential for U.S. personnel to pose undue risk to the U.S. personnel. That's like 2 layers of complete subjective analysis, right? The risk, and then what constitutes undue risk.
Right.
I mean, if you say there's a 35% risk that someone is going to one of our team is going to get killed in this mission, that's a subjective analysis. And then whether or not that's undue is also subjective.
Right. Right, and I mean, you can imagine that. You can imagine that same logic applying to specific situations domestically, right? I mean,
of course.
Look at the Branch Davidians, right?
Or look at what's happening in California. I mean, police officers go out every day and they get shot. So it seems very problematic, and it seems even more problematic that by confirming this guy, the Congress will have sort of de facto signed off on the policy.
I mean, the fact of the matter is they've de facto signed off on it anyway, right? I mean, part of me, it's a little, even, Louis Gohmert, Texas Republican, was railing against this on the floor, and other conservatives, prominent conservatives in the media have made us think about it. Rupert Murdoch tweeted about it.
To be fair, though, he did refer to Guantanamo Bay as Guatemala.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, he is, he's either a victim of autocorrect or, like many leftists in America, still upset about the role that the U.S. government played in the horrific coup in Guatemala in the 1950s. One of the two. Right. But I'm looking right now on my computer on an April 6, 2010 New York Times front page above the fold article, U.S. approves targeted killing of American cleric by Scott Shane, in which it was reported that we had added al-Awlaki to the kill list.
Right.
Subsequently, he was killed. Everyone knew that we did it, even if Jake Carney, when asked about it by members of the White House press corps, and I would say Jake Tapper has been good on this and particularly persistent on this, basically said, I can't talk about that. We can't talk about anything with the program. So, all of the kind of outrage or debate that this memo has precipitated, to me, seems a little late. I mean, we've known basically this was the contours. Now, we do now have the explicit legal rationale, and I think a lot of the things about the legal rationale as reflected, again, as you say, the sort of shadow that is this memo, does not make you feel better about the program insofar as, for instance, the definition of imminence is so widely construed as essentially to be rendered meaningless. So there are new facts, but, we have all known, anyone reading the newspaper has known the basic contours of the program and how it operates. Aside, with the exception of Ron Wyden and a few other folks,
right,
there just hasn't been much outcry. I think Congress, and there hasn't been much public outcry either. What there is right now is essentially a kind of complicity around, both the national security establishment more or less is on board with this. The administration, obviously, who are the architects, are on board. both congressional Democrats and congressional Republicans, by and large, are essentially on board, and the American public. Now, all of that does not add up to it being the right thing to do from a policy perspective, from a legal perspective, or from a moral perspective. But there, it's nothing new for this hearing to essentially act as a kind of tacit assent for it. I think you're right, however, that the act of confirming Brennan does something more concrete and does act as some kind of going on the record that you're fine with it.